India, one campaign of the Narendra Modi government that has managed to create a lot of buzz, but has it also managed to succeed in its objective of creating jobs, attracting investors and turning India into a manufacturing powerhouse? Hello and welcome to this very special show. I'm Shweta Rajpal Kohli, and with me today, Amitabh Kant, someone who has been spearheading many of the government's leading initiatives, including Make in India. And we're coming to you today from the Ashoka University, a premier liberal arts university on the outskirts of Delhi. So it's going to be these students who will be quizzing you, Mr. Kant, today.
Great pleasure.
But let me start by actually getting a sense of where Make in India stands today. It's a campaign that was kicked off in September 2014. What's the kind of progress we've made, especially coming at a time when you're looking at a mega Make in India week in Mumbai to attract investors?
So Shweta, first foremost, I think that one of the key objectives of Make in India was to open up our economy. And we've opened up India's economy. This government has opened up defense, railways, construction, insurance, pension fund, just about everything. India today, other than multi-brand retail, is the most open economy of the world. And if you were to look at the last 15-16 months, India's FDI has, and including the latest December figure, FDI inflows into India have increased by 48%, a whopping 48%, at a point of time when globally, and we are in the midst of a very big slowdown globally. Globally, FDI has fallen by 16%. So that's one. So the second key objective was that we try and make India a very easy and simple place to do business in. And I think we are well on that act. We've tried to do away with a number of rules, regulation, procedures act. India's position has improved in the ease of doing business by 12 ranks. But I think there's a big challenge. Because most of the action is in the states. We've tried to create a sense of competition among states by making them compete. And I think the third important thing was that, we as a nation must respect people's intellectual property rights.
Right.
And therefore, we have coming out with a new intellectual property policy,
right,
which will have faith in, which will drive innovation, design, which will drive productivity in a very big way in India.
All right, but is it translating into more jobs, into better growth rates, into real investments coming in? Those are some of the concerns that always come up. But let's actually have some of the students here asking the questions. Yeah, go ahead. What's your question?
So, sir, I want to know exactly what are your views on Dr. Raghuram Rajan's statement of Make for India versus Make in India? Are we just replicating China's export model?
Yeah, nobody in the world actually manufactures for the domestic market only. When you're thinking large in size and scale, you manufacture for the domestic market. But you also manufacture for exports. And therefore, it's very necessary that India penetrates global markets as well. And till you don't do this, because the real unit value realization is abroad, it's not domestically. And therefore, if India has to do large-scale manufacturing, it must have the ability to penetrate global markets. Governor RBI said it in the context of a global slowdown right now, which is fair enough. But, India's share in the global economy, export share, is very minimal. It's just about 1.5%. And therefore, India needs to work hard to penetrate global markets. Without that, because exports and manufacturing have a very close direct relationship. If you are not able to push your exports, your manufacturing will obviously fall.
But this India versus China comparison is important, and it always comes up, especially when we talk about manufacturing, with many believing that India is way behind. We still have a lot of catching up to do, and that we simply cannot match up to the manufacturing capabilities of a country like China. How do you respond to that?
No, we've had a different strategy of growth. India's growth has largely been driven by the services sector. 60% of our GDP comes from the services sector. And therefore, we must understand that while China was the manufacturing powerhouse, India was the soft power of the world.
Right.
And therefore, it's necessary that today India must move forward. You can't create jobs without manufacturing.
Sure.
There are huge perils for India to bypass the process of manufacturing. And if you want to create jobs, you need to shift people from agriculture to manufacturing.
So my question is that it seems that Make in India campaign is more focused on foreign investment. So it has created kind of apprehensions in domestic market, domestic manufacture. So what is your opinion on that regard?
No country in the world can ever grow only on the basis of foreign direct investments. Foreign direct investment brings in technology, it brings in size, it brings in good companies from abroad. But essentially, it's the Indian manufacturers, it's the Indian entrepreneurs which must provide drive, fillip, and momentum to India's growth story. And I think that'll happen. We've had, Indian companies were overstretched, our banks were overstretched, but I think what you will see in the coming days to come, we are going through a process of structural transformation, but in the years to come, you'll see Indian business enterprises giving a huge thrust to India's growth and India's economy.
So it's a misconception to say that Make in India is only to attract foreign investment.
Our objective is to drive India's economy, and that really implies that we must work in partnership with Indian enterprises. And we do a lot of work with Indian enterprises. We do a lot of work with young Indian startups. Right. We do a lot of work with a whole range of Indian businesses across states. FDI is just one component of what we do.
My question to you is, like, everyone is saying that Make in India is a very well designed campaign and it's very aggressively being marketed. But a lot of Indians are having a concern is whether it is more of a PR campaign rather than a campaign that meant to create impact.
If it was just a PR campaign, India's position wouldn't have improved. India was slipping in ease of doing business. It wouldn't have improved so radically. If it was just a PR campaign, then we would not have opened up India's economy in such a vigorous manner. If it was just a PR campaign, India's FDI inflows would not have grown up by 48%. If it was just a PR campaign, we would not have pushed up for creating a totally new policy towards innovation, design, productivity, etc. So our focus is on driving change. Our entire focus is on very major structural transformation across 25 sectors.
You mentioned ease of doing business, and we of course spoke about how India's ranking has considerably improved. Are we on track to be in the top 50 as Prime Minister Modi had promised?
I think a lot of work has been done on that in terms of bankruptcy law, the new National Company Law Tribunal, the commercial courts. And these are all hard work, improving the turnaround time at our ports, and so on. So I think we are on track. The Prime Minister had said that take 3 to 4 years, bring India in the top 50 ranks. And I think we are well on track in the next 3 years to be in the top 50.
In the top 50 in the next 3 years. Why don't you pass the mic at the back, some girls?
To what extent do you think Make in India is a political party aligned campaign? As we can clearly see, there is lack of collaboration between parties. What is BJP government doing to bring other parties on the same page?
Well, to my mind, there should be no politics as far as economic agenda is concerned. There should be no politics as far as growth of India is concerned.
So the way the politics comes in, Mr. Kant, is that, as you said, that for Make in India to be a success, you clearly need, to a large extent, for the economy to grow. For the economy to grow, you need reforms to happen. A reform like GST getting stuck, clearly, many would call it due to just mere political reasons, is something that hampers what many investors are looking at as a growing economy, as India being a reform-driven economy. How critical would the passing of GST be to the success of Make in India?
You know, my belief is that on several of these economic reforms issues, there's imminent need for political consensus. And I think all political parties must have the agenda of India's growth. Having said that, you know, India has grown at rates of 9 to 10% in the past for 5 to 6 years. We didn't have a GST then. But I personally am of the belief that, GST is very important. India needs one uniform market. You need goods to move between states. It's very important also to have consensus around bankruptcy code. Sure. Because in India you can't have failure.
Sir, as you are the CEO of the NITI Aayog, which is a national institution for transforming India, my question is that what exactly is the NITI Aayog doing? Because nobody seems to have any idea about it.
Well, I've just joined the NITI Aayog, and I'll be really getting into full flow from 1st of March when I move in full time there. But NITI Aayog is an institution for transforming India across social sectors, across infrastructure, across a vast range of areas, and I think it will do that job.
But if I could just add to that, when NITI Aayog was launched, there was a lot of hype, a lot of expectation, especially given that it was replacing an institution like the Planning Commission. We've seen that it hasn't quite taken off the way it was expected. So why has it been so slow?
No, well, it's just been 1 year. You know, I mean, Indians, you know, you've got to give, when you're transforming institutions, you give it, it's very important that Indians must learn the art of being patient when institutions are being built. This is the time for India, and this is the time for young Indians like you, and all of you must shape the destiny of India. Never be pessimistic. All these institutions will play a major role. India is going through a very major radical transformation. India will, even at a time when the global economy is slowed down across America, across Japan, across Korea, across China, India is growing at 7.4%. I mean, this is a remarkable achievement for any economy like ours.
Question which I want to ask, sir, and I'm not sure if you would be happy to hear this, is that there were serious allegations which were made against the Make in India logo, that it is a direct copy of the Zurich Cantonal Bank logo, and that it's not made in India as it was made by W+K. And we saw some heated discussion between you and Dr. Tharoor on Twitter last year. So what are your comments on that?
Have you seen that Swiss train logo?
Yeah.
Did you see that?
Yeah.
It doesn't resemble the Make in India logo at all. At all. I've had a very close look at it. It doesn't resemble it at all. Now, you can have 10 lions. We make a lion, and then somebody says that I also have a lion, and then you say that we've copied that lion. This is the most absurd theory that came across. Most absurd this thing. Secondly, I think we must always be proud about the creativity of young Indians. The logo was created by a bunch of young Indians like you. I mean, they are the ones who created it. Give it credit. They were led by a team of W&K, which is V. Sunil. Now, we must understand that this logo was created by Indians sitting in Delhi, and this has captured the imagination of the world. It's been one of the most powerful campaigns. Have a sense of pride about this.
As a part of my project, when you speak of job creation, the immediate link, I believe, is skill induction. So I work closely in implementing and strategizing the flagship Skill India initiative as well. And as a part of it, as I visit the ITIs, the promise is not as appealing as we see in our agenda. So what is the roadmap you intend to? Well,
skill is very, very critical. It's very important. And, you know, the government has actually created a new Ministry of Skill and Entrepreneurship. And it has done a lot of work around qualifications, around laying down sectoral councils, etc. And I think we are on track. It's just that the work they're doing, they need to put it out in public domain. But a lot of work has been done around skill, and it will be very difficult for Make in India to succeed in the long run. You're not looking at Make in India for 1 year, 2 years. And Shweta's question was, in the last 2 years, we've done extremely well, but we need to look at Make in India and how it will transform India in the next 2 to 3 decades. And for that to happen, Skill India is very, very critical.
Sir, my question is in a different paradigm. One of the biggest concerns in today's developmental world is that there is a trade-off between environment and economic growth, that is industrialization. So with so many industrial corridors coming up, there's going to be forest clearance. What is your policy towards that?
I think that's a very important question. And the challenge is to do it in an extremely innovative and extremely sustainable manner on the back of public transportation. We must have recycling of water, recycling of waste, public transportation, all that embedded into the process of industrialization and process of urbanization. And I think that is what this government is trying to push through this Smart City campaign.
So we are talking about ambitions in exports. India has an ambitious export growth target of $900 billion by 2020. But since the growth rates of economies around the world are declining, how do we actually plan to achieve that, considering the demand-supply gap?
Irrespective of the global slowdown, I am a great believer that India has a huge possibility of penetrating global markets. We must understand that when you export, you get 7 to 8 times more unit value realization than what you sell in the domestic market. Yes, at a moment of crisis, India was fortunate that it had a vast domestic market. But you must plan and penetrate global markets. Without growing in your exports for long periods of time, it will be very difficult for India to grow rapidly.
How will Make in India impact the defense and aviation sector?
Again, a very important question. You know, across the world, it's defense sector which brings in innovation, it brings in design, it brings in technology, and a very good example of that is America, where actually internet came out of defense manufacturing. And therefore, you know, India has been one of the largest importers of defense equipment. For the first time, we made a paradigm shift in our offset policy, in our defense procurement policy, to say that majority of these things we'll manufacture in India.
Yeah, hi. One of the main aims of the Make in India is to create 100 million jobs by 2022. So, isn't that being a little too ambitious to create 100 million jobs in the next 6 years?
See, firstly, your target should always be ambitious. You'll get into trouble once in a while, but that's okay. The second is that India's a large number, you know, of labor-intensive sectors. I mean, look at textile, look at food processing, look at gems and jewelry, look at leather. I mean, these are all, or construction, where urbanization just started happening. India has just begun its process of urbanization. So actually the vast number of labor-intensive sectors which can create jobs are huge and enormous, and that is what we are trying to drive. And I'm quite sure that these will create the right jobs.
We are expecting the union budget late this month. What Make in India friendly provisions can we expect in the union budget? And how will Make in India have an impact on our Indian economy in general?
For the first part of the question, if I respond to that, I'll lose my job. So I can't tell you what you're going to get into the budget. But I can broadly say that our objective is to drive manufacturing. Our objective is to see that India becomes a very good destination in terms of predictability and consistency of policies. Our objective is that India must be able to create jobs. All this you'll find in the budget. It will enable the policy measures being taken through the budget will help and facilitate Make in India in a very big way.
But if I could just take that forward, there is a debate ongoing right now on whether industry or whether foreign investors need incentives or tax breaks right now to invite them to come and invest in India to make sure that Make in India is a success. So we've even got it being termed as nothing but subsidies to the corporate sector. So isn't there a bit of a clash there? On one hand, you're saying Make in India, incentivize people to come and invest in India. On the other hand, we're talking about Prime Minister Modi himself talking about taking away these so-called subsidies from the corporate sector.
Yeah. So there are two things. One, that the tax rates in India are high. You need to bring down the tax rates to lower levels. You can't do that till many sectors have got benefits. And many sectors we've given exemptions. Right. You need to take them away and say that there'll be no exemptions, there'll be no holidays, except probably for startups. And but all other sectors you need to remove and bring down your tax rate so that you are on par with the globalized regime.
All right, so as we know, Make in India, a powerful campaign, in many ways a centerpiece of the government's very strategic vision of creating jobs, spurring investments and making sure that India is on the path of becoming a manufacturing powerhouse for the world. The government is also kicking off that Make in India week, a big week to attract investors. But thank you all for asking some very, very intelligent and interesting questions, and a big thank you to Mr. Amitabh Kant for taking all those questions and answering them. Thank you very much.